Well, hello YouTube. Here we are. It's a little bit of a mini project. Well, in front of us we have our cargo trailer to camper conversion going on. Well, one thing we need is blockings to put under the tongue of the trailer right there, as well as the rear stability jacks, which are, well, kind of right down there. Well, I've been using firewood for the rear stability jacks. However, they're not the most stable of things to jam a piece of wood under. And the tongue jack, well, that's something that was clobbered together at the dealership where I bought the trailer, and they kind of just threw it in. And that's not the best of solution either, because sometimes I find that it's too high for uneven ground, and as well it wants to tip on over when there's weight on the block. Well, you remember this old piece of plywood from 2013, the one that I made the countertop out of? Well, once the countertop was cut out of it, the rest of the sheet wasn't really much of any value. So here it sat for the last, couple months. Decided now to either scrap it or use it for something of value. So what I'm going to do is cut a strip of 12-inch blockings. There should be 8 of them once they're all cut. And then I'm going to end up cutting a strip of 10-inch blockings, as well as we'll end up gluing them together, probably putting a few screws into them to make, what we need. Now, we can buy what we want from the local trailer accessory shop. However, we'll be paying them for scrap material as well as their labor. And why not save a bit and do it yourself, especially when you have the ability and the tools to do the job. So I'm going to get my markings all marked up and set you up on the tripod. Try to get an action shot of cutting the first cut, and we'll see how it goes from there. Okay, so now that it's cut, I got my 12-inch by 8-foot strip. I'll probably take her now to the saw and cut her into 12-inch by 12-inch blockings. Then that way, by the time I get everything said and done, I'll have a firm base to put the jack of the trailer on. Now, I'm not going to glue or screw all of these together into one solid lump. I'll probably do 2 at a time, or maybe 3 at a time, and then have 1 or 2 as shims to make the difference up. Because sometimes the ground is uneven or so, and you just need that little more, and the jack is maxed. And you could put 1 more under, and it's where you need it to be. But before I do that, I'm going to measure on out and cut the 10-inch ones. Now, the 10-inch ones are going to be some figuring because, well, this is where the sheet starts to get a little bit on the ugly side. What I'll probably end up doing is squaring off the peak there and making a cut that way. And that'll yield me a 10-inch piece, and then once more squaring it off and then making another cut, and that'll yield me another 10-inch piece. So what I'll probably end up doing is measuring up from the bottom 10 inches and making a cut. And if there's a remaining 10 inches in there, then I'll cut it and just square off. Probably end up doing that on both ends. The other end will yield a couple more pieces than this end. But that's what happens when you're using scrap material. Okay guys, so here we go. Set up inside the shop here, all ready to roll. I got my 10-inch piece on the table of the saw here, all ready to go. Marked up every 10 inches on here. Now this isn't a precision job per se. It needs to look presentable at the other end. However, if there is some discrepancies, then hey, that's okay. We can run it through the table saw and trim everything up. I'll probably end up losing a piece or two out of the V here. The one cut ends right about here, and then the next one begins just over from this line right here. So I was trying to decide if I wanted to make a piece that, you know, was defective, had the notch out of it, or if I should just skip it and put that piece to scrap. So we'll get our cutting done and then move on to the larger piece. Once that's all done, then we can start gluing all this together. So after all that cutting, measuring, and figuring out, this is all that I have left of a 4x8 sheet of 5/8 plywood. We got a little piece here. I could probably get one 10x10 out of there. Down here, I could probably get two 10x10s and maybe one or two 12x12s. As of right now, I believe I'm good for blockings. However, it never hurts to have an extra set because, well, you never know when you might leave one behind. Well, up here along the fence line, you see we got two 12x12s, three 12x12s, and another stack of three 12x12s, and then two stacks of 10x10. Just letting the sun heat these up a bit. They were sitting outside. They have gotten a little bit of moisture. Want to dry them out before I glue them together. Okay guys, so after these squares are all cut, time to, well, glue them all together. In front of us here we have handy dandy PL400 for our application. It's pretty much the same as PL Premium, just a little bit cheaper on the price. Now you probably could use nails if you choose, or, you know, screw them together. However, I have this already on hand from a previous job, and, well, might as well use it up. So pretty much just sandwich it together, kind of like such. It doesn't have instant grab or hold power. You do have a little bit of time to move things around if you need it to get everything where you want it to be. If you do a little bit of research, a little bit of shopping around, you'll find the product that works best for you, for your job, your application. And, well, I find for the stuff that I do, the 400 works for me. The PL Premium has a bit of a wider range of stuff you can do with it, where the 400 for this type of job is perfectly fine. So those are the stacks of 12s there. There is two more that are loose that I'll probably glue together off camera. And then I'll glue the 10s together off camera and then come on back. Of course, got all the adhesive on. Got the squares all lined up in place about where I want them. I was going to use screws to fasten them on down. However, for a cleaner look, I decided to use my bar clamps. The bar clamps will hold the pieces together while the glue dries or adhesive dries. And then once everything's all dry, release the pressure, and then we'll see what happens. I may still run them through a table saw just to clean up the edges. The plywood cut that I made must not quite have been perfect on par for square, but we can clean that up without too much of an issue. So I guess now we wait a little bit of drying time and everything will be fine at the other end. There we go. The glue is now dry. As you see, the pipe clamps are now off. I ran the blockings through the saw just to square up the edges, just to make them more cleaner. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to leave them square or if I'm going to knock the corners off just to give them a bit of a softer appearance. I could also run the sander over them if I want to get fancy as well. But rather than relying solely on adhesive to hold these together, I'm going to put a couple of screws in them. I use a mechanical fastener, and they shouldn't ever come apart. Well, there you go. Ran through the stack, got them all fastened down, put 4 screws in each one. If you really wanted to do overkill, you could do another 4 from the back side if you want. But these 4, along with the adhesive, should be plenty enough to hold everything in place. So let's now go give them a try out and see if they work like I have visioned. Okay guys, so there we go. Got our freshly made blockings under the tongue of the trailer. It's slightly shorter as she sits than the original one. And if you took out the top 2, then it'll be even shorter for uneven ground and all that good stuff. Well, I only put the one stability jack down just to show you what I mean. That's kind of the general idea. Now, if you were to take the tongue of the trailer down a little further, then you could extend the rear jack here down another inch or 2, as long as it's equal to level or so. Then if you brought the nose of the trailer back up to being level, there would be pressure on that jack, which would add even more stability. But sometimes, guys, you gotta make it yourself, whether you can't find it or when you do find it, it's way too much money. Built ourselves a set of blockings for the trailer. Should do many years of service. We'll have to see what the future holds if I paint or stain or leave these raw the way they sit. Well, thanks for coming along on this little video journey, and as always, thanks for watching Maxwell's World. Comment, subscribe, and enjoy.